Good morning everyone. Today's topic is bacterial corneal ulcer. Coming to the introduction, loss of epithelium is termed as epithelial defect and it is demonstrated clearly by staining with 1% sodium fluorescent dye and viewed with cobalt blue filtered light, which is present on the direct ophthalmoscope as well as on the slit lamp. If superficial without any inflammation, an epithelial defect is also called an abrasion or erosion and it usually heals within 12 to 24 hours. A loss of epithelium with inflammation in the surrounding cornea is called a corneal ulcer. A corneal scar is the final outcome of any inflammation of the cornea. Bacterial corneal ulcers. The causative organisms are mostly, it is also known as a purulent type of keratitis, and mostly these are exogenous organisms and pyogenic bacteria such as Pseudomonas, Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus albus, Pneumococcus, Neisseria gonorrhea, Escherichia coli, etc., which invade the cornea. There are few organisms which are known to be able to invade the normal intact corneal epithelium, and these are Neisseria gonorrhoeae, Corynebacterium diphtheria, Neisseria meningitidis. Most other bacteria like pneumococci, these are capable of producing an ulceration only when the epithelium has already been damaged. The principal mode of entry of organisms is through the corneal epithelium as a result of a break in the surface, diminished resistance to of the epithelium, necrosis or desquamation. The predisposing factors are introduction of organism during a trauma, prolonged use of topical steroids, dry eyes, entropion with trichiasis, that is, entropion means interning of the lid margin, along with trichiasis, which means inward misdirection of the cilia, which might rub against your cornea. The next one is lag of ophthalmos due to neuroparalysis, mostly because of the facial nerve paralysis. Wearing of contact lenses, bullous keratopathy, poor local hygiene, neurotrophic keratitis, trigeminal nerve paralysis in which sensation of the cornea may be impaired or lost. Coming to the clinical features, the presentation or symptoms of the patient include intense pain, photophobia, blurring of vision, mucopurulent or purulent discharge. The signs include an epithelial defect with infiltrate involving a larger area and a significant circumcorneal injection. There might be stromal edema, folds in Descemet's membrane and anterior uveitis, commonly with a hypopyon, which is a whitish collection which is composed of WBCs or pus in the anterior chamber. There is also formation of posterior synechiae in moderate to severe keratitis. Chemosis and eyelid swelling in moderate to severe cases may also be observed. Severe ulceration may lead to descemetocele formation and perforation, particularly with Pseudomonas infection. In descemetocele, there is a very thinned out cornea, or there is a small perforation in the cornea which might lead to aqueous leak, but this is plugged by the iris tissue and then this is known as the descemetocele. Scleritis may develop particularly with severe perilimbal infection. There might be reduced corneal sensations, suggestive mostly of associated neurotrophic keratopathy. Sometimes these might be reduced as with other etiologies like chronic surface diseases, herpetic keratitis and long-term contact lens wear as well. IOP should always be monitored. Subsequent scarring may be severe, including vascularization in addition to opacification, leading to irregular astigmatism which might further limit the vision. Signs of improvement following your treatment: reduction in eyelid edema, chemosis, shrinkage of epithelial defect, decreased infiltrate density, reduction in anterior chamber signs, and also an improvement in the visual acuity may be present. The differential diagnosis include keratitis due to other microorganisms like fungi, acanthamoeba, stromal herpes simplex keratitis, and mycobacteria. Marginal keratitis, sterile inflammatory corneal infiltrates associated with contact lens wear, peripheral ulcerative keratitis, toxic keratitis. Investigations include corneal scraping, in which a non-preserved topical anesthetic is instilled 1 drop at a time of roxymetacaine 0.5%, or even tetracaine. Scrapings are taken either with disposable scalpel blade, example number 15 or number 11, or a bent tip of a larger diameter hypodermic needle of 20 or 21 gauge, or a sterile spatula, example the Kimura spatula. Loose mucus and necrotic tissue should always be removed from the surface of the ulcer prior to scraping. The margins and the base, except if it has been very thinned out, the lesions have to be scraped, and a thin smear is placed on 1 or 2 glass slides for microscopy, including gram staining as well as KOH if at all you suspect any fungus. Scraping may be delayed without treatment for 12 hours if antibiotics had been previously commenced in this patient. This is known as drug holiday. Rescraping is performed for each medium and samples are to be plated onto culture media, taking care that the surface of the gel is not broken. Gram staining differentiates bacterial species into gram-positive and gram-negative based on the ability of the dye to penetrate the cell wall. Gram-positive cocci or gram-positive bacteria take up this stain, whereas the gram-negative ones do not take up the treatment. In case of contact lens users, the discontinuation of contact lens is mandatory. If there is significant thinning or perforation, then after installation of each and every eye drop, a clear plastic shield has to be applied over the eye. Empirical broad spectrum treatment is usually initiated before microscopy results are available. Moxifloxacin has a superior penetration. Other antibiotics for empirical treatment: fluoroquinolone monotherapy or cefuroxime plus fortified gentamicin deotherapy. If gram-positive cocci is known, then cefuroxime, vancomycin. Gram-negative rods, fortified gentamicin or fluoroquinolone or ceftazidime. For gram-negative cocci, fluoroquinolones or ceftriaxones. Fortification is basically a method by which you intensify or strengthen the medication to achieve adequate drug concentration. Need for fortification is in cases where there is resistant microbial keratitis, for moderate to severe corneal ulcers, for drugs that are available in parenteral form only, like vancomycin and amphotericin B. Disadvantages of the fortified antibiotics include high cost, limited availability, contamination risk, short shelf life, and the need for refrigeration. In case there is poor compliance with topical treatment, then we might go ahead with subconjunctival antibiotics. Mydriatics, cyclopentolate 1%, hometropin 2% or atropine 1% are used to prevent the formation of posterior synechia and to reduce any pain due to ciliary spasms. Steroids, mostly they do not commence topical steroids until evidence of clinical improvement is seen with the antibiotics alone, typically 24 to 48 hours after starting the treatment. Most of them do not use them at all, or they wait until the sensitivity of isolate to antibiotics has been demonstrated. But sometimes a minimal strength preparation at lower frequency can be used, such as prednisolone 0.5 to 1% 4 times daily. Systemic antibiotics usually not given, but they might be appropriate under some circumstances, like potential for systemic involvement is very high, as with Neisseria gonorrhoeae, severe corneal thinning with threatened or acute perforation. In such cases, ciprofloxacin for its antibacterial activity can be given. Also tetracycline or example doxycycline 100 milligrams twice daily for its anticollagenase effect can be used. Scleral involvement may respond better to oral or intravenous treatment. In case there is perforation, depending upon the size of perforation, if it is very small perforation with controlled or managed infectivity, then bandage contact lens can be used. A tissue glue is applied over that small part, and then the bandage contact lens is applied so that it provides further strength. A penetrating keratoplasty or corneal patch graft may be necessary for larger perforations or in those where infection is extensive or inadequately controlled. Visual rehabilitation: keratoplasty lamellar may be adequate but may be required for residual dense corneal scarring. Rigid contact lenses may be required for irregular astigmatic correction but are generally only introduced at least 3 months after reepithelialization of cornea has been achieved. Cataract surgery may be required because secondary lens opacities are common following the severe inflammation due to corneal ulcer. Even in the absence of severe corneal opacification, the cataract surgery is also difficult and is hampered by the corneal haze, the formation of this posterior synechiae and zonular fragility. Thank you.